Well, folks, have we got news for you?
Busy day.
Busy day. Just returning from shoot around before lunch, of course, and that's where we're headed after this. But here's something for you to chew on. About 45 to
I'm going to say an hour.
1 hour meeting, closed door for the players, with the coaching staff and management types all in there, all kind of clearing the air, as it were. And, we tried to get some of the fallout after. I know Eric's going to write about it. I'm going to kind of write about it, and we'll give you what we can remember. Because a lot went down. Safe to say, there are going to be changes. And one of the themes that we got from that meeting with the players was they were able to finally use the key word. And to me, that's communicate. And I think maybe differences in some way, be they cultural, whatever, was preventing this team from being totally together on a communication standpoint. There's been a lot of talk, but finally I think the talk has resulted in some true communication.
And as Jonesy, you mentioned the cultural divide maybe. Was this sort of a Freudian slip, for lack of a better term, or was this legit in terms of Antoine Wright coming out and wanting to say, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but he basically said, when you're trying to communicate with a teammate and you've got to go to the guy and wonder if it's got to go through someone else when you're trying to talk to the Italian. Now, he specifically said the Italian. Well, I'm going to assume that just based on body language, based on minutes played, based on the lineups overall that we've seen, it's probably not referring to Marco Belinelli. And that's not to make Andrea the scapegoat for all the problems, but obviously there has been an issue with at least one guy, and the communication or the chemistry with at least one guy, if not many more as well.
And Eric and I think it might not even have been the fact that he used that term. I think the issue is the communication. And when Jarrett came out last game and said, we're walking on eggshells, it's just that we talked about yesterday. They're at a stage, in the 4 stages of group work and a team coming together, the forming, storming, norming, performing. They're at the storming stage because now guys are trying to say things to other people, and it's, how do I say this? I used the analogy yesterday about going out on a date. You don't like something she's wearing, you don't say it the first time. But if it's the 3rd or 4th time and you figure, gosh, I got to say something, it's how do I do it now? And I think that's where they're at.
And to your point, I agree with you, Jonesy, in that it's not, and that's why I said I'm not trying to make Andre to be the scapegoat. I don't think that would be fair. I think there's probably, how does Jarrett Jack talk to Jose Calderon? How does Antoine Wright talk to Chris Bosch? It goes with
because they're all new.
Exactly. They're all new at this point. And you can sit there and say, well, they had a month in training camp. Well, you may be right, and that theory may be right, but obviously it's a flawed theory or it's not a real theory because the issues are real right now. Blame them for not getting it done and not getting on the same page, but the reality is they're not. So hopefully this meeting made a difference.
Well, you're right. You don't go through 5-game losing streaks in training camp because the losing will reveal some things and bring some things out that aren't going to be there at a different time. And you're right, Eric. This is the problems are real now. And it seems like from talking to the players that the air was cleared and they have at least a basis and a framework, and a foundation for how to communicate with one another.
Now, 2 other things quickly. Based on who you talk to the players, talk to the coaches, the tone or the general makeup of the meeting was different. Some say that it was 1 through 15, everybody talking, but Bosch and Turkoglu both said they didn't speak. They sat back, they listened, they took it all in. Bosch, for one, has already done enough talking a number of times to this team, and he stepped up. But Jay Triano said it was more about going around the room and asking questions of certain guys, and he kind of controlled things and was allowed to ask guys certain questions. They answered. The floor was open if they wanted to discuss anything. So it did seem like it was not necessarily a kumbaya festival or anything by any means. But the big thing as well is, and I hit this on Twitter a little bit earlier for those that follow, Triano did admit, I think his direct words were, quote, pondering a change to the starting lineup tonight, but quote, undecided as of yet. And he did say that if there were changes, it could be anywhere from 0 to as many as 3 guys being changed in the starting lineup tonight.
And that puts a lot of permutations and combinations into play. And
if it's one guy, Jonesy, if it's just one, do we agree it's probably
DeMar? Probably DeMar.
But now who in for DeMar?
Well, Antoine Wright didn't play at all last game. How healthy is he? Is he ready to go? He might be the most likely guy, but then What about Marco Belinelli? He's another guy that's
I would
played
say
well.
based on the fact that he didn't play, and our understanding was it wasn't for a lack of health, whether it was a team decision because he did speak out in the media a few games ago or a few days ago. I'm wondering if you go from not playing a guy and sending a message to a guy to saying, okay, now you're starting. So I would say if DeMar comes out, I'm just speculating, I'm just guessing just like you would be right now, I'm saying it would be Marco.
Yeah.
But now, what if it's two guys?
Well, here's the other thing, before we get onto the two combination.
Okay. This is going to be a real long vlog.
Do you leave it and say, okay, we've dealt with that, you've kind of served your punishment, we need you back in there to start playing? That's the other thing. All right, let's go on to two.
Okay, if it's two guys, let's just assume then that number one is DeMar. We're just assuming.
Assuming.
If it's two,
all conjecture, folks. Don't quote us. Paul Jones and Eric Smith said they're changing the starting lineup. Pondering.
All right, so if it's two, let's say we're going with DeMar as one. Is the second guy Calderon or is the second guy Bargnani? Because I think we're both in agreement that neither Turkoglu nor Bosch is coming out. Those are probably the two locks. So if it's as many as three, Calderon, Bargnani, DeRozan. So if it's two, who are we looking at now?
Well, I would say that your point guards probably have to be able to spell one another, my thought, because if you leave them on the floor for 6 or 7 minutes together, 5 or 6 minutes together, then one's got to come out and then get a short rest and go back in for the other one. So I'm thinking maybe you leave a role that's been settled into by Jarrett Jack where it is. Maybe Andre is the next guy.
Okay, well, here's my next question for you then. If Andre is the guy, I'm sure everybody out there is saying, oh, okay, hustle guy, energy guy, Amir Johnson's going to be in the starting lineup. But
could be.
Is there a possibility that the Raptors go more traditional in terms of a big man like Nesterovic, a veteran presence, who still might only end up playing 15 to 18 minutes a night, but he's starting the game and maybe gives you that lockdown guy in the middle or that more stabilizing force, as opposed to Amir, who, as good as he's been, quick fouls, kind of plays a little out of body sometimes and whatever else, and maybe you still want his energy off the bench.
Maybe you keep him in that role, and Rasho gets inserted again, speculating. You do become more traditional, especially tonight against a guy like Brendan Haywood, who really hurt them on the glass last game. Maybe Rasho's a better fit there. Who knows?
So it's all really speculation at this point. Now, obviously, if we talk third, we would be going to the third guy. It would probably be then Calderon and starting Jack over Calderon, and that's if Jay actually goes the 0-3 route. Now, we could be totally wrong. Maybe the first guy is actually Andre. Maybe the first guy is Calderon. Who knows?
Maybe there's no changes.
Yeah, well, he did say 0-3, right?
3, yeah.
But he did also say that if a change was made, whether it's 1, 2, or 3, that it wouldn't probably be just for a game. It would be, I'm changing my starting lineup, and now I have to give this new crew chance a chance to grow and to see what they can do. So I don't think, as much as you talk about, Rasho for Haywood, that's 100% right. But then you think to tomorrow night and think of the athleticism of the front court of the Chicago Bulls. Would Rasho be a fit for that, and would that go against the theory that Jay said that if he does make a change, he's staying with it for a while? So really, your guess is as good as ours right now, and tune in. Keep it clicked on Twitter. Keep it clicked on the Fan 590 on fan590.com. Probably starting at about 5:30ish. Any information we get tonight, usually the lineups are announced within an hour at the latest, within an hour before tip. So by 6 o'clock, we should know what's going on. And if we get it before, one of us will get the information out there. And this is the place to get it, because we're one of the few guys that are on the road with the team right now. And no TV.
There you go.
Other than Raptors TV. They are there.
But it's
there's
us.
no camera.
But it's us right now.
This is the place to get the info.
We are going for lunch.
Yes.
There's lots to do this afternoon. We still got game prep to do, by the way. So we'll talk to you later. Listen tonight on The Fan.